Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, we're going to get it started with XCP-ng. It's a, fairly new open source hypervisor. Yeah, it's the simplest way I can tell it to you. It's a spin-off of, of Zen, which is owned by Citrix. Zen has been an open source project for a long time. When I first got into virtualization, 11, 12 years ago, I used Zen and fell in love with Zen, the Citrix version of Zen. And Citrix used to give most of the basic features away for free, and then if you need to do things like live migration or that kind of thing, they charged you a license fee for it. So what happened is the open source version of Zen kind of laid there and lingered because Citrix had gone gung-ho on it. The problem was Citrix was trying to compete with Microsoft and VMware, the ones that make ESXi. I'm sorry, my memory's not sharp today. And they failed miserably. They tried to get a niche market with Zen. Citrix did. That didn't quite catch on. I mean, they're still making money, so they must have done some part of that right. But anyway, I digress. The problem is that when the latest version of Citrix Zen Server came out, they crippled a lot of the features that were previously available in previous versions. So I guess the guys behind the open source version of Zen kind of let it languish there, and a new group of developers decided to take it over, and they created the XCP-ng derivation of Zen Server. And I got to tell you, I'm not easily impressed. Like I say, I've always liked Citrix, and I've always liked their version of Zen Server. The XCP-ng version is pretty damn good. Stability-wise, I don't know. It hadn't been out there a long time, but I put it on a machine, on that IBM machine here. And I wanted to show it off to you today. So let's get that video started. Alright, so anyway, a few days ago I managed to get XCP-ng, or XCP-ng, which is the open source version of Zen Server, installed on my IBM 3650 M3 without any problems whatsoever. I just basically put the USB key in, follow the install instructions. The install is very similar to ESXi if you've ever done that with VMware. I'm not going to do an install video. There are plenty of them out there. In fact, the one I would recommend is Tom over at Lawrence Systems. So if you get a chance, go look at his video on installing XCP-ng. And I will try to put a link down below so that you all can see it moving forward. But anyway, I just wanted to go over the interface really quick. You have different views over here on the left-hand side. You have an infrastructure object view, organization view. You can do save searches and notifications. But I'm just up here at the root, and you'll see that I've got a default install of XCP-ng. Choosing 0 of 16 CPUs, 3.8 gig of 48 gig of RAM, the IP address, the uptime. Then you can see I've got a couple of virtual machines already set up here. I did a Debian stretch install, Windows 7, and then my storage media. So I have my 1 terabyte SSD drive in there. I have the SMB ISO library, which is located on my Synology NAS. It's where all my ISOs are located, and I like that it has the ability to do that rather than storing the ISOs on a local or an iSCSI drive. You can actually point it to a Windows share, an SMB share, and you can have access to all your ISOs. And then I created an iSCSI share over on the Synology NAS and link this device to it. So if I come down one here to the actual lab, you will see that I've got a default, I've got my iSCSI IQN, how long it's been up. I can go over to the memory tab and show you how much memory is in use and how much is assigned to each individual virtual machine. my storage. So I have local storage. That's my I've got about 80 gig left on that out of 120 gig. My SMB ISO library, which is over on my Synology NAS. DVD drive. I've got a 1 terabyte SSD. That is a locally attached SSD drive in the IBM server. I have the XCP-ng lab connection to an iSCSI shared. That is also on my Synology NAS using LVM over iSCSI. I have 4 NICs in that machine, in that IBM, but only one is being used right now, and it's got a static IP address of 5. And then I have my other NICs down here, NIC 0 through 4. No GPU. I've got USB. There's a USB key in the machine. I can go do a console right here if I wanted to. I can look at performance on the machine and on the virtual machines. And you can actually join an Active Directory domain. I'm not going to do that yet. What I'm more interested in is getting my Windows virtual machines, my Windows lab, which is running Hyper-V, converted over to running on XCP. So that'll be my next task. But then I can come down here to the individual virtual machines and I can edit them or check out their storage and their networking, etc. And I can look on my SSD drive, which is a storage device. It'll tell you what virtual disks are on there. You can even search it. Here's my local storage, and you can see I've got my Debian Stretch 9 is on this drive, and you can see on this one I've got a Windows 7 virtual machine. Then the SMB ISO library, you can see all my machine images out here. And then XCP-ng lab, and nothing is stored in that right now. That's local storage. It's on 100, or I'm sorry, this is on the iSCSI. I don't have any machines on there yet. Then if you come down to the objects view, it just gives you a breakout a little bit easier on the servers that are out there, your VMs, templates, remote storage depositories, local storage repositories, virtual disks, networks, etc. And then you have organizational views by tag, folder, custom field, vapps. So even the basic, I don't have Zen Orchestra up and running on this. It's a plan to do it, but for right now I'm just using the XCP-ng Center to get around in it. But that's a basic overview of the interface. All right, so now I'm going to show you a virtual machine, how you start one up. So I'm just going to come down to the Debian unit, and I like to go in through the console this way and then click here to start it. So it'll start up the virtual machine. It'll give me a console connection so I can actually log into the virtual machine. Now this Debian does not have a GUI interface. It's strictly got a command line prompt. See if I can remember my password here. And bingo, there you go. Got a Debian running up and running. Oh yeah. Let's see. Here we go. You can see I'm getting an IP address. I can learn how to spell. I can ping Google. So I have got an internet connection. Let's see if I can ping my domain. I can ping my domain, and you see my domain controller is responding as authoritative. So let's see if I can ping one of my devices, and I can. So not only do I know the IP is working, the internet is working, but my internal DNS is also working as well. So let's do the same thing with a Windows 7 machine. Let's go over to Windows 7. Let's go to the console tab and click here to start it, and see if we can get our Windows 7 virtual machine to start up. I've already installed the guest tools on this, so it should be we should be able to see this remote desktop option not be grayed out once Windows comes up. Here we go. If it helps if you enter the right password. Now, I don't know that guest tools got installed. I don't see any way to see. Go to general. I don't see anywhere where it says the guest tools are installed. So boot options. Yeah. 4 CPUs. Memory. Storage. Networking. Console. Performance. But if the XCP-ng tools are not installed, I would not be getting the memory and network performance, I believe. Well, it's real simple. Let's see if they're installed. I don't remember if I installed them or not. Yes, they're there. So the Zen tools are indeed on there. And so now I should be able to come up here and turn on remote desktop and then connect. So not only do I have the console options, but I also have the ability to use RDP to connect to this if I want to. So let's just go into the virtual machine and into device manager, and you'll see everything looks good. I should have 4 processors. I do. I should have, let's see, tell me the RAM. Let's go look at the network adapter, USB. Everything appears to be there. Not bad, eh? So now if I come back to the root here at the XCP-ng Center, you'll see that my Debian stretch is up and running, how much CPU and memory usage, disk usage, network usage. It shows my IPv6 and my IPv4 address, tells me the uptime. Same way with Windows 7. How much RAM it's using, the disk throughput, the IP address. This one shows it as IPv4, then IPv6, and gives you just a general overview of the machines that are running. Basically the same thing here with the XCP-ng lab at this level. I can go over to memory and I can see what is using what memory, storage and use, etc., networking, performance. So I can see my performance over time. And then I can go to the individual virtual machines and click through the options here, including performance on both of these. So nice little, I like the way XCP does this. It's just like the old days of Zen server, which I'm very familiar with. I've used it before. Now, one of the things I really like about XCP, and I keep in mind I'm comparing this to Hyper-V for my purposes of this video, is the ability to move storage around, move where my virtual machine storage is located. So I'm going to go ahead and come here to Debian Stretch, go to the console, and I'm actually going to, let's see, can I shut it down from here? See if I right click, I can go ahead and shut down. Okay. Now I don't know that I need to shut it down when I do this, but I'm going to go over here to storage. And right now my Debian Stretch is located on local storage. I want to move that over to the iSCSI just to see if I can. So I'm going to go ahead and come down here and click on the move button. And I'm going to go over to the XCP-ng-lab, that is the iSCSI store, and I'm going to tell it to move. Now, I won't see anything here except I'll have an indication that the machine is unavailable and something, it looks like 2 arrows, so that says to me it's moving the machine. But if you come down here to notifications and go to events, then you can monitor the progress of the move. So we'll let this we'll let XCP go ahead and finish moving this hard drive storage, and we'll come back when it's complete. Alright, so it looks like the move was successful. So let's come back up here to the infrastructure view and come back to storage, and you'll see now it's over on my iSCSI drive. So let's go ahead and start it, see if it'll boot up. And bing bang boom, it should allow me to log in. Go ahead and log in as root. And everything appears to be working. Still able to ping Google. And ping my local domain. So I'd say that was successful. Now, what I'd like to do is see if I can move the Windows 7 storage while it's running. See if it'll let me. Now, right now it's on the 1 terabyte SSD. I want to move this over to the iSCSI, so I'm going to click on Move. And I'm going to tell it to move it over to the iSCSI storage, which is XCP-ng-lab. So we'll click on Move. And then it shows it's moving it while it's live. So we come over to the console. We'll still see our Windows 7 machine is up and running. If we come to notifications, we'll see it's moving the Windows disk 7 for Windows 7 disk. It's moving it over to the iSCSI storage while the machine is up and running. So if I were to click on something here, I can still go into my computer and I can still do what I need to do in there. So we'll let this go ahead, and you can see the little indicator over here shows it's something is happening. It's a motion moving the storage, I guess. So we'll let this run, and we'll come back when the when the item completes. Now you notice also down here it tells me it's moving the virtual disk Windows 7. So we'll let that complete and see if it's interruption free. All right, so we come over to our notifications section now down here on XCP. We'll notice that it moved the virtual disk Windows 7. We go back into our infrastructure. We'll see our Windows 7 machine is still up and running, doing its thing. There was no interruption in activity, none whatsoever. And we should see now that our storage is over on XCP-ng-lab. That's the iSCSI store on my Synology NAS. I was able to do that without bringing the virtual machine down, without interrupting my network activity or anything like that. It just did it on its own and without issue. That's something that Hyper-V will do as well, but it's a little more convoluted. This is very simple to do a live migration of storage. And once I get another XCP-ng machine up and running, we will, in theory, be able to do live migration between the servers as well. I'm going to try and do a Windows 10 install now, just for shits and giggles, and see how it goes. Alright, so we're back on the XCP-ng Center, and I've come up to my XCP-ng-lab machine and highlight it, and I'm going to come up here and create a new virtual machine. I'm going to choose Windows 10 64-bit, and it'll grab a template to create this. And I'm going to do, it's going to be a Windows 10 Enterprise, so I'm going to call it Enterprise. I'm going to install from the ISO library, and I should have a Windows 10 installer in here. I do. I'm going to click on Next. I'm going to place it on this, place the VM on this server. I only have one server, so that's one I'll choose. I click Next. I'm going to do, I'm going to give it 4 CPUs, and I'm going to give it one socket with 4 cores per socket, and I'm going to give it 4 gig of memory. No GPU options. Now my storage, I'm going to let it go ahead and use the 1 terabyte SSD drive. That's what I named it. That way it'll do a quick install. That SSD is very fast. Click on Next. I'm going to delete the network USB. I don't need that. I need to go out and edit this template. That's what this VM is being created from, is a template. But I haven't gone out and cleaned up my templates. And it even tells you you're using a default template. You can configure up to 4 network interfaces, etc. But you'll need to go out and I'll need to go out and edit the template at some point. Tell it next. I'm not going to start the new VM automatically, but I am going to go ahead and create it. And then if you watch over here, eventually you'll see another virtual machine being created. It tells you down here it's creating the disks. And now there's the Windows 10 machine right here created. It's got 4 gig of memory. We got a hard drive, 24 gig. It's got a network card. Let's go over to the console and let's go ahead and click here to start it. And the Windows 10 install. It should boot off the Windows 10 ISO and start me on the install. We'll wait till it comes up to the first install screen to make sure that we are successful, and then I will go ahead and install it in the background. And then once I'm done, I'll give you an idea of how long it took to create that virtual machine. Alright, well, we'll get started on the install. I'll come back when we're done. So we have Windows 10 installed. It's up at the desktop. Now it's probably still doing a whole bunch of stuff in the background. So we'll load Task Manager here, and as you can see, it's got a bunch of stuff still going on, like OneDrive setup, etc. So let's talk about this interface here for XCP. It's one of the things I like. On this console screen, you have a button here to send Control-Alt-Delete, which is what I did to get into Task Manager. You can scale the window up, so it'll pretty much fill the screen. You can do a full screen on it, and then hit I guess Control-Enter to return. Nope. Okay, go back. Click this Exit Full Screen Mode. It's simple as that. I could even undock it, which I'm not going to do, but allows you to move it as a separate window wherever you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and redock it to the browser. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to eject. As you can see up here, I have the Windows 10 ISO. I'm going to go ahead and eject that. And then I'm going to insert the Guest Tools ISO in its place. And it should have inserted it now. And yes, I'm going to do this while OneDrive setup is running. I'm going to come to the Zen Server Tools, double click on it. I'm going to go ahead and install the drivers for Zen. All told, the installation took me about 10 minutes for Windows 10 virtual machine in an SSD drive, or on an SSD drive. I'm going to go ahead and tell it yes to restart now. Now that the drivers are loaded, we'll need to set the time zone. If you saw that, it was showing it incorrectly. I'll just go ahead and let this run so you can get an idea of the boot times on this virtual machine. It's not that speedy of a boot, not like an actual physical machine, but not too bad so far. Alright, so we're at the welcome screen, so I can hit Send Control-Alt-Delete. Go ahead and log in. See what kind of processes we have going on in the background. And we'll let those continue running. The performance is pretty darn good. It's got a logical processor. You see I have 4 cores, or 4 CPUs. 4 gig of RAM, it's using about 2. Disk usage is down there pretty good, so it looks like the machine is stabilizing. Now, if I click the scale button down here, let's see what happens. It still works. How about full screen? Yeah, it's still not going full screen. Well, its version of full screen. But we can fix that. We just need to set the resolution, and it would probably work better if remote desktop were utilized in there. Let me go to, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong one. Let me go here to File Explorer, and then go to this PC and go to Properties and see what kind of, so it shows it's on an Intel Xeon, 4 gig of RAM, 64-bit operating system. The device manager looks clear. Microsoft Basic display adapter. That should probably change as time goes on. Yeah, that's a little disconcerting. I would expect to see a Zen video driver in there, but Zen doesn't know this machine has any video card, so I guess it's just going to go with the Microsoft Basic display adapter. And then if I were to RDP into that machine, yeah, see, it says searching for display driver. That was before I installed the driver. So let's go ahead and set the correct time zone here. So it's Central Time, US and Canada. Now my time is right. So there you go. Windows 10 install took less than 10 minutes, or it took about 10 minutes, including getting the drivers installed for Zen or XCP, and it's working fine. So you know how I feel about Microsoft Hyper-V. You know how I feel about ESXi. I'm not a big fan. I think they took a good product, ESXi, and they really, I don't know. I'm just not happy with ESXi. Some people like to use it. I prefer Hyper-V, but I want to move away from Microsoft. Not that I have anything against Microsoft, but I'd rather have my customers spending money on really good hardware and upgrading their equipment rather than having to spend a bunch of money on an operating system. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm kind of going this direction. And I've got to eat my own dog food first before I spring it upon my customers. Now, I have not yet found a way, but I'm sure there's a way to donate or send money to XCP-ng to help their development along. So I would rather take the money that I would pay to Microsoft, or the client would pay to Microsoft for Windows Server operating system, and apply that to the open source community, or apply that to Zen Orchestra, you know, the management program that comes with it. We'll be doing a separate video on that. But I got to tell you, folks, I'm really impressed with XCP. Tom Lawrence over at Lawrence Systems turned me on to it, and I don't think I'll be going back to Windows Hyper-V on this machine. Just with the basic stuff. Now, I've used no manuals. I've used no instructions on getting this set up. If you've set up ESXi before, you can easily set up Zen or XCP on a machine you have laying around with enough RAM and CPU cycles. I would just recommend you do it and see for yourself. But you saw how easy it was to move the storage of a virtual machine around. That's something I really can't even do that easily with Hyper-V. You can, but it's not as intuitive, and it's not. There's a lot of Microsoft likes to use wizards, so there's a lot of wizards you got to go through, I should say. The XCP, it was just straightforward. I just clicked the move. Look, I'll even show you. I just basically went under the virtual machine to the storage, and you choose the virtual machine hard drive and click on move and tell it where you want to move it to. And you can do it while the machine is running. So, yeah, there you go. Very simple, very easy to use. So, the next hitch in my get along, as they say, is I have about 15 virtual machines in my Windows lab and 2 virtual servers that I need to convert from Hyper-V over to XCP. Now, it's supposedly trivial to do it, but we shall see, because 2 of those virtual servers are domain controllers, so this ought to be a little bit of fun, right? So that's what I'm going to spend the next amount of my time looking to do, is convert it over. And once I get that down into a formula that works, then I will share that with you in the form of a video. So there you go. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please smash that like button, give us a like down below, leave your comments down in the comments section, donate if you're so inclined, PayPal, Patreon, you know the routine. And please do comment on this video. Tell me what you think of XCP, if you can see using it in your lab setup. Again, the whole goal in the next year is to get my business converted over to using open source software, and not for the reasons you think, not because I'm cheap, although I am. I just want to do it's a proof of concept I want to do, because I know if I can run my business on open source software, certainly there are others out there that can do it as well. I've never been fond of being a reseller of software or being an authorized service center for software. That's not my bag. That's not where I make my money. I make my money off of my brain matter and putting it into effect for my clients in order to save them money and time and resources and to make their IT journey as painless as possible. That's the whole goal. So anyway, again, we hope you enjoyed the video. And don't forget, folks, that we will see you on the other side.